Okay, and guys, all of you, if you ever hear us, because we talk like this to begin with, and if you ever see the recording not going to stop us, just say, Dr. Stedman, don't forget to record. So everybody hold me accountable for that, okay? Okay, Dr. Revis, let me just pull up let me share to begin with, and then we pull the agenda up. Okay, guys, this is our agenda for tonight, and you can find this in your course shell under module 2. So that is where you will find this information. Dr. Revis, if you'll go ahead and get started.
Well, welcome, guys. If you're here tonight, I applaud you. You've come back for the second week. And remember, we talked about if you stay through week 3 and make it to week 4, you will be fine in this course. So I'm just going to shout out this. If you decide to drop after tonight, please, please, please call, text, get in touch with either Dr. Stedman or myself so that we can talk about things. We do not like to lose students at all, but we know that these next couple weeks are going to be a little overwhelming for you. So you've made it this far. Let's hang in there. And with that, Dr. Stedman's going to give us just a review of Task 1 of the AAPSL.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Revis. Let me minimize this. I still can't figure out what happened last week. You know, when I don't know if I had so much stuff open or whatever that it just went berserk. I don't know, but anyway, hope that doesn't happen again tonight. Again, for those that were not here last week, it's vitally important that you look at the recorded video that you'll find under module 1. That will give you everything that we did last week, and that's very important because once we do something, we don't have time to go back and to do something to that extent again. So it's your responsibility to make sure that you are viewing the videos, going back and looking at them if necessary. And if for some reason you're not here, it's vitally important that you look at it immediately and don't just scan through it. You will miss something if you scan through it. You need to spend the time just as if you were, in class, if for some reason you can't be there. But last week we introduced you to, we did a course overview. We showed you how to go into Blackboard, and we showed you how to find the resources that you would need to help get started with the first of 2 major projects that you're going to do this semester. And one of them, the first one being the AAPSL, which means an analysis and action plan for student learning. You always begin with the student in mind. That's what education is all about, or school business is all about. It's about the children. So we begin with the children in mind. We went over task 1 of the AAPSL, and I'm going to quickly review that again this evening, but we also gave you instructions. There were things that you needed to have done before you came back to class tonight. And I hope all of you have already done that. And that was, that we asked you to meet with your administrator, talk with them about, what you're having to do in the program, letting them know that you've got to begin a new PLC. We talked to you about forming your group, which is a part of Task 1. So just let me go over Task 1. And what I'm going to use right now is the Helpful Hints document. Again, this is vitally important, and you can find this under AAPSL resources and materials in your Blackboard shell. And again, number 2, remember we said you needed to have the conversation with your principal. I hope you've done that. All of you should have gotten at least an email from your clinical coach 1. They're the ones that will set up the meeting with you and with your site administrator, your principal, or whoever it is at your school to hold the initial meeting. that is required. So if you have not heard from your CC1, you need to let Dr. Revis, Dr. Hamilton, or me know immediately. So in fact, at some point, just put that in the chat box at some point, because Dr. Hamilton, you can get that information for us so that we'll know how to handle it. But you should, and if you've gotten information, a text message from them or an email, then by all means, reach out to them immediately, respond back. Don't let it just sit there. They need to hear from you. So please do that. We also ask you to go ahead and think about, who do you want to serve on your PLC? And we told you that it needed to be 3 to 5 people, including yourself, and that 4 is really a good number, but up to no more than 5. But yourself, and include your administrator if at all possible, because this would save you a lot of trouble down the road. And then you would find 2 to 3 other people that that will support the work that you're doing in this program and to help you get the evidence work and the task work done for the app, so they would participate in this. We ask you to schedule a meeting with that PLC. We ask you to begin the process of talking to them about thanking them for being a part of the process, and asking them and letting them know what it is that you will be doing this semester. It was not one of the tasks to go in there and say, we need to go ahead and start identifying a problem at our school. That was not the purpose of this. The purpose was to get started, to set your norms, standards, meeting times, basically to know what to expect from week to week over the next few weeks with this team. You had to do some research, or you will have to do research with this, and that the research is just a brief lit review that talks about, what is a PLC. We said you had to have a minimum of 3 sources, and one of them must be DeFore, because we do support the DeFore model with the PLCs that we use for this program, and that a minimum of 2 other references that support what a PLC is. Dr. Hamilton introduced the school profile last week. When you submit your task 1 for review this week, you will also include your school profile. I'm not going to go over that again. If you need to refer back to that, look at the video from last week, and also look at the examples that we've provided. Now I'm going to come back to the helpful hints later on in this evening, but I'm going to quickly go to your template. The template is what you have to use to do your task 1, task 2, task 3 work on your evidence work. And remember, there's a cover page, and your cover page just simply says your title page, your name here. You put your name in that. Then, and then you're going to, your school profile is going to be the first thing that you put in there. Remember these 3 areas right here. We said that if something is highlighted in yellow, that means you've got to write something, narrative work. If it's in red, that means that's information that you need to consider using. Once you have done it, you delete the red text. You also delete any yellow highlighting. But if it's in black, that means it stays. You do not take away from the template anything that is recorded in black. So you're going to begin with your school profile. Task 1, the description, all of this stays the same. Spacing stays the same. Your instruction stays the same. Prop number 1, all this stays the same because it's in black. Your first heading is PLC research. This is where you do your mini research dive. then your PLC selection, and you're going to identify who they are, why did you choose them, and talk about their credentials, what makes them special, that identify the strengths of those people that you'll be using. Then you're going to show evidence of your PLC meeting. Following that, you're going to have an appendices and and your Dr. Revis, help me, Dr. The appendices comes next, right? Your
The
appendices,
reference section,
the
then the appendix.
reference section, then your appendices. You're going to have your references, and remember, your references is going to be all of the sources that you use, and at a minimum, you're going to have 3 at a minimum, because that's going to be in your lit review. And then following that, you're going to have your appendices, and in your appendices, remember, you met with your principal, but you've got to get a written permission. So you're going to send them an email asking permission to conduct the PLC, to form, to meet with your peers to see if they'll support the PLC and get their blessings, and then an affirmative response back from your principal saying you can use that. That's an artifact. You must include that in your appendices. You must include an agenda of meeting in your appendices. I would highly recommend a picture of you presenting to your team and your team in your appendices. This is proof, and you can use these later on in some of the other work that you'll be doing. And any other thing that you would like to include in the appendices that you are using in your meeting. That is task 1. That is what is going to be due no later than 6 o'clock this coming Sunday in Blackboard. And you're going to do 2 things. You're going to put it in for peer review. Dr. Revis is going to talk about that tonight. And then you're also going to put it in there for a grade and for instructor review. Now, this is not your final, but when you submit it, you should submit it the first time as if it was your final. You give it your best shot the first time. Don't think, well, they're just going to edit to get back. No, you lose points. You lose points if we have to send it back. So you do your very, very, very best the first time. And Dr. Revis, Dr. Hamilton, we have students that get it perfect the first time, don't we? So it should always be your goal to strive for perfection. I'm going to come back to task 2 in just a little bit, but I'm going to stop my share, and very quickly, because we have to move on. Are there any questions about task 1? Does everybody know what your requirements are for this week? Your first big assignment.
So, uh-oh, who was that? I'm sorry.
Say, let's move on.
That
Go
was
ahead.
Amanda.
Okay,
Yes,
go ahead.
ma'am.
Go
I
ahead,
just had one
Amanda.
question. For the agenda piece for the PLC, do we need to add an agenda template and then the minutes? Or do we need to just combine the agenda and the minutes together?
It can be either or, Amanda. We're not sticky on that as long as we've got evidence of of the work. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, Ashley.
Okay, so to recap, we need to have an email from those participants saying that it's okay to use them, or is it coming from no, we got to get one from the principal as evidence, right?
That's right. You don't need
And then
anything. You don't need anything from the people. You
the
just show them
okay.
in your task work.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, you got that?
Yes.
Okay, is everybody good? Yes.
When we use the template, do we leave all of the other information in the template and just add what we're doing for task 1 and leave the task 2?
Remember, if it's in black, it stays.
Okay.
If it's in red, you use the information that you need and you take the rest of the red out. And if it's highlighted in yellow, that means you got to write something, but you delete those notes when you begin your work. The only thing
But-
we should see is what is in black.
But let me follow up on what Salita asked, which prompted me to talk about this. You're only turning in task one. That's really the only task we want to see.
Right.
So the other stuff you save, and you'll start working on task two the following week
Right.
or
I
this
see
week.
what you're saying now, Selena. Thank you, Dr. Revis. You only need to show us task one and don't send all the other stuff that goes with it. And then next week, after when you get to task two, you're not going to show us task one. You're going to save it somewhere. All we want to see next week is task two, only the work for that week until we get to the end, and then we'll tell you to combine it and submit it for a final review. Okay, I misunderstood you, Salita. Thank you.
I have a question.
Okay, Janique?
We submitted for a peer review and instructor review at the same time.
Yes. And Dr.
Okay.
Revis is going to talk about that tonight. Okay,
Okay.
there's two things, but we've got time set in our schedule to show you how you're going to do that, Janique. Okay, so hold on, you'll get that question answered in just a little bit. Okay,
A question.
okay.
How often do we have to have the PLCs?
To begin with, Kenley, you're going to have one each week for the first few weeks. And then after that, they will be scattered, but the first 3 or 4 weeks, you're going to have one. About the first 4 weeks, you're going to have one every week.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Okay,
Dr. Stedman,
go ahead.
we're gonna add a little something to the agenda
Okay,
that we didn't get to, and that's I want to go do an overview on the PLC model that
okay,
we're using.
yes,
And if you have not already had your PLC meeting, which you may have, but if you've not, feel free to use this PowerPoint. It's actually under week one in module one. So this is the PLC model that we are going to use. And I'm going to see if I can get it from slideshow. Can you see my screen? Everybody see it?
yes,
Okay. So what is a PLC? Well, you know, I hear schools and teachers and staff talk about PLCs and they call everything a PLC when it's just really a glorified grade level meeting or a department meeting. But a PLC in the model that we're using and that we want you to use here with your newly convened PLC, it's about student learning. Student learning. And we call it the DeFore model. He's not the only founder of this, but he is the big, I would call him the grandfather. He and his wife, DeFore and DeFore. And this PLC model has three big ideas. We're focusing on learning for all students. We employ a culture of collaboration among our PLC members. This does not happen by accident. As the PLC leader, you have to facilitate that culture of collaboration. But as the PLC leader, you have to make sure that the focus remains on results, on student learning results. So the focus is for learning for for all students, and we have three questions. What do we want students to learn? How will we know when they have learned it? And how will we respond when students experience difficulty in their learning? That's the questions that we talk about in ongoing PLCs. So let's talk a little bit about our collaborative culture. Again, collaboration does not come naturally. You're pulling together a brand new group of teachers who may not have worked together before. So you're going to have to build an atmosphere of trust. And one way that we do that is to agree on our norms. How are we going to agree to operate as a PLC? Now, I made one mistake here, Dr. Stedman and Dr. Hamilton, when I was supposed to go over our classroom norms, but I want to applaud you guys for following them even without me mentioning them. But the first thing that you need to do, and one of the things you need to have on your agenda, is establishing norms. And how do we agree to operate as the PLC is going to be your big question. And down to the nitty gritty, how will we make decisions and come to a consensus? How will we agree to disagree? How will we agree to communicate? And when will we meet? And lastly, and I think this is really important, what information are we going to consider confidential among our PLC, and what information can we share outside of the group? Those are all norms that you need to address and talk to about with your PLC during your first meeting. Remember, this first meeting is kind of like an organization meeting. Excuse me. So we're focusing on results that are tangible, and during the operation of your PLC, not necessarily this PLC meeting, but during your series of PLC meetings, you're going to do examination of results, and you're going to do some research on best practices that address your needs, and you're gonna set long-term and short-term goals. So you're operating in a true mindset of a DeFore PLC. And this is a website that you can go and find lots of PLC resources if you want any. Again, feel free to use this particular PowerPoint if you wish. You certainly do not have to. Okay. Now I'm going to clear my screen. And the next thing on the agenda is showing you about your Dover Library. So let me go very quickly and just share with you where you can find a link to your Dover Library. This is in our course content shell. And if you click the down arrow, it's going to give you the third thing listed here on mine is the Dover Library. Now, in this class and in all of your Gardner Web program for the master's add-on, if we ask you for research, we are wanting you to go and use research from the Dover Library. So what is a PLC? You're going to do research, and you're going to come to the Dover Library to do your search. At Gardner Web, we call these searches Bulldog One Search. So I'm just going to type in, and I've already done this, so I'm going to type in professional learning communities. But remember, one of my resources has to be DeFore. So I'm going to search there first. Type in professional learning communities, DeFore, and you're going to see what comes up. There are 465 resources with DeFore. Now, some of these are work that DeFore has authored, and other times it may be work in which they have cited him. But here's your first one right here. Now, let me also say this. Over here in refining my search, this resource does not do me any good. It's a book, but if it's not got a full text online, I don't really have time to order that through the interlibrary loan. So I always want to refine my search by doing full text online. And this particular resource is online because it stayed in my search engine. And then you can do a quick look at it, gives you a little abstract. Okay. And so again, there's several things on DeFore. You want to stay with, if you can, journal articles because those are quicker reads for you than books or ebooks. But use what you can because one of your references has to be DeFore. Now, I'm going to take DeFore out of my search engine, and I'm just going to look at professional learning communities. I'm still doing full online tasks. There are over 2 million results for professional learning communities. How in the world would you ever get through all that? Well, you won't. But here are some other filters. Here's where you can sort by journal article if you wish. Now, you're still going to get over 380,000 of those. And another thing that you can do, once you get your to-for resource, come down here and look at publication dates. And I like for you to stay within the last 5 years first. And there has been a lot of things, even within the last 5 years. I think there are still over 122,000 resources in the last 5 years. Now, you may not find DeFore in the last 5 years. That's because his research is considered seminal research. So that's why you search outside of that range for his work. And so that's a way that you can pick your resources. Don't belabor it. Don't spend a lot of time on it. Get things that are full online text. And I would just recommend that you stay with journal articles, things that are quick and easy reads for you, and stay away from the ebooks or the full books, so to speak. So, any questions on doing a Dover library search?
Question about the where it has the quotation marks. Does it give you the citation for that as well?
It will. It
And
will
would it
give
be
you.
it would be fine for us to
It will
use
give you
that
this. It will,
citation?
do what? I'm sorry, I talked over you.
Oh, you're fine. Will it be fine for us to use that citation?
Well, it's a place to start. Dr. Hamilton is going to show you how to make sure you put your citations in APA format.
Okay.
But yeah, yes, you'll need to pull your citations here.
Mhm.
And it will tell you if it's cited by or if it cites. So, um, but all of these will have citations.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Dr.
These are
Revis,
pretty,
Revis,
yeah, yeah.
Kenley, I think this may help. The citation may not, based on what they may not have used APA 7th edition, in their site. So you've got to use APA 7th edition. So that's important. The information is there, but you will have to adapt it to APA 7th edition that Dr. Hamilton's going to talk about. Does that clear that up? Okay.
Okay, so I think now I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Hamilton, and she's going to give you a crash course in APA 7th edition. Dr. Hamilton, I think you're muted.
Then there's that. Yes, thank you, Dr. Evans and Dr. Stedman. And it is going to be a crash course. It does not matter if you are in my 698C4 or 698C2, whichever, you can go to that shell and you will see, oh, I'm on the wrong thing. Let me go to content, and you will see that when you scroll down, you will see week 2. Dr. Hamilton agenda, and everything we're going to go over tonight is right there for you to download and to use. In addition to another clinical internship log, it's the same one as I provided last week, but it is there for you. So we're going to start with our APA 7th edition PowerPoint, and I'm going to go through this pretty quickly just for time's sake. So you do need the manual. You do need to refer to the manual. Sometimes there are things we just have to talk about and figure it out. I mean, it just is. This is the 2nd or 3rd year, maybe 4th. I don't know. We've been using this, but anyway, we're still trying to come around to it. But anyway, acronyms, you know what an acronym is, right? So like if I worked at Parsley Elementary School, PES would be my acronym. Do not use an acronym unless you're going to use the word, like Parsley Elementary School, at least 3 times, the proper noun, at least 3 times in your paper. So if you're going to use it at least 3 times, and when you're talking about your school profile, more than likely you're going to say the name of your school more than 3 times, right? go ahead and put the very first time, Parsley Elementary School, parentheses, PES. And then every time you use the name of your school, just pretend like that's the name of your school, for the rest of your paper, and I mean the whole paper, you're just going to put PES. Now, it's going to be very hard for some of you who are trying to do this thorough and complete work to not write out the word, but you do. You just put PES and roll on. You won't just say parsley or parsley elementary, just put PES every time and roll on. Capitalization within text in APA 7th edition, especially if those of you got your master's with 6th edition or any other advanced degree with 6th edition, there's not a lot of capitalization going on outside of real proper nouns in APA 7th edition. So when you're doing your PLC selection and things like that, if you say Kathy Revis, math teacher would be lowercase, math department chair would be lowercase, principal would be lowercase, superintendent would be lowercase. Your headings are going to already be there, left justified for you in your template. This is an example for you. Now, note that this example should be double spaced, but we didn't have room on the slide for it to be double spaced. So we're just going to highlight a few things here. Here is a single author, and this is an in-text citation, and it has the author's name, and it has the date in parentheses. Every time you have a name, you have to have a date. Do not separate the name and the date. If you do not have a direct quote, and I would encourage you to limit direct quotes, then you do not have a page number. If you do have a direct quote, then you must have a page number. Again, do not separate that from the author name and the date. And lastly, if you have a quote of 40 or more words, which I know none of you are going to do, there is special formatting for that, but that's too much quoting. Too much quoting does not make for a good paper read. So, so pay attention, like here are some examples, right? So this is the first time we've used professional learning community. So we're going to go ahead and identify that acronym PLC in the parentheses. I want to go back to this. We didn't say as recommended by Bacani in his article, Flying with the Doves or whatever, right? No, the article name does not go here. This is just an in-text reference. The article name does not go here. That is what your reference section at the end of the paper is for. We're going to go on down, and again, we're going to talk about PLC again. We're not going to say professional learning community. We're just putting the acronym PLC. I also suggest that you refrain from using quotation marks unless it is a direct quote. Some of you might want to put like, oh, we're the Eagles, we soar. Avoid that. Serving on the PLC again, here's another acronym right here. You're just going to say that is person's name. Notice lowercase math teacher. Now, English is a proper noun. We're going to go ahead and capitalize that. All these other things through here that you can read and see faster than I can read them out loud are all lowercase. And even like mental health, personal safety, and academic growth, all those things. And here we had our acronym again, and we're going to use that in all of our tasks for the rest of our paper. I'll just go ahead and point out, just for repetition's sake, that 37 is going to be numerals because it's number greater than 10, and it does not start or end a sentence. And then this goes on to say that various members of the groups have worked as academic coaches, teachers. All of this is lowercase. In APA 7th edition, they can be used as a singular pronoun. APA 7th edition is first person active voice. So you will be referring to yourself as I. This is not a personal narrative. You are doing research. You are reporting on your research. You are collecting informational data. So there's really no room in here for, well, at my school, nobody really has a good attitude about anything. You wouldn't believe some of the things we've read over the years. No. This is a professionally written paper, and it is in first person. And this is not a personal narrative, so please keep that in mind. So first person active voice means the subject must be doing the action to be active. When the subject comes after the verb, it is often passive. Now, all of the charts, tables, whatever you want to call it, that you're going to do for us in this work, you're going to label these as figures. And so the first figure in your whole APSL will be figure 1. The second one will be figure 2. They must go in sequential order. Now you're going to put that at the top. You're going to say figure 1, figure 2, etc. So they're based on the order. And then beneath that, you're going to have a title. So it's going to look sort of like this. Figure 1 is going to be left justified, and that is going to be in bold. Times New Roman 12-point bold. Figure 1. All right. Then double space, because most everything you do in here is going to be double spaced. Double space. You are going to put the title, not bold, still Times New Roman 12-point. You're going to put the title, not bold, in italics. Then beneath every single figure you have, you need to make a note. Now, please note that note and the period following note is not in bold. It is also left justified. It is not indented, and it is in italics. Now, you're going to have a little description for that note about what we just saw in this figure, and that is going to just be in plain Times New Roman 12-point font. It is not going to be bold. It is not going to be italics. So that is the way that your figures should be set up, with all 3 components of the titles and for your figures, the figure number, the title, and the note being left justified. Now, we have to look at plural and singulars, right? And sometimes this gets a little funny. So like appendix is like Appendix A. Appendices is your collection of Appendix A, Appendix B, Appendix C. Datum is singular. Data are plural. So that gets a little funny, but just so keep those things in mind. Now, in your in-text citations, which we talked about a few minutes ago, when using the exact text from another source, it's going to be a quoted text. You have to always have those quotation marks, and you have to include that in-text citation with the page number. There is a one author example. We prefer that you paraphrase, synthesize, summarize what you're reading to enhance your work, to enhance your critical thinking, and to enhance the product of your work. When you're summarizing, synthesizing anything that you've read, you must give credit to the original source by the in-text citation. Again, this is not a personal narrative, so you have to be able to prove what you're writing in these papers. Since you could sometimes are synthesizing and combining ideas from across multiple authors' work, you synthesize that. So if I took 2 articles, one by Davis, one by Smith, I would put parentheses Davis, comma 2017, semicolon Smith, comma 2019, and I just did those in alphabetical order. And we've already talked about long quotes, but you're not going to do that anyway. Now here's an thing for 7th edition of APA, and that is the in-text citations. If you have 1 or 2 authors, there's really no change. So these are all parenthetical. These 2 are parenthetical because the whole thing is in parentheses. So if you had 1 author, Earl, 2013, just goes in the parentheses. This one, Oberleis and Matheson, 2019, page 45. That's 2 authors, that's fine. Now this is parenthetical, that means the whole thing is in parentheses. When you have a parenthetical citation, in-text citation, you use an ampersand. Please note, parenthetical, use an ampersand. This also tells me that there was a direct quote here from page 45. This is 2 authors, they both get listed. Here comes the trick, 3+ authors. The first author's name and et al. For each in-text citation. So Black et al. So we don't know if there were 3 authors, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, comma, 2000, et al., period, comma, 2010, or McCartney et al., period, comma, 2016. Of course, that's a direct quote. Now, the moral to this story is when you publish something and there are more than 2 authors, there are 3 or more authors, then you better make sure your name is first. And that's the moral to that story. So here is a non-exemplar of an in-text citation and an exemplar with 3 or more authors. So you can go back and look at that. So we see right here in this example that we have this parenthetical in-text citation. I know that it's parenthetical because the whole thing is in parentheses. We use an ampersand for that. Pienta and Cox, comma. There was only 2 authors to that article, comma, 1998, period. Here's another example. Now, this is where I've used several resources, right? And I can tell that because I have my semicolon right here. So this is a 2-article paper, and this is parenthetical, so I'm going to use ampersands, not AND. And so we are going to say that, okay, that's good. That's a 2-author. Oh, look at this one. That's 3 or more right there. It sure is. And then that's the National Education Panel goals. So that's fine. Your references and appendices, which Dr. Stedman touched on. References for your in-text citations come at the end of each section. So you're going to merge those at the end of your artifact evidence, and those references all have to be in alphabetical order. And your appendices are at the very end. That's going to be the last thing, and they are in sequential order. So your very first reference in your narrative, see Appendix A, is going to at the bottom. That's going to be Appendix A at the bottom. So you have to have that direct one-to-one corresponding reference. So let's go back here for just a second. Pienta and Cox. Okay, I have that as a reference in my narrative. I should be able to go to my reference section and see the cited reference source for this article, so that if a reader wants to find that source and read more about it as a primary source for themselves, they can use the information that you have in your reference section to go back and do that. Same thing for appendices. When you have parentheses, lowercase s, C, appendix, capital A, like A, B, C, whatever, I should be able to go to the bottom and find the corresponding appendices. I'm going to have to stop sharing for just 1 second and just turn on one little share sound, and then I'm going to go back to this. Now, when you do your reference section, you do have to use hanging indents. Now, Dr. Revis has already showed you how to find the Gardner Webb Library. And so you will find this on the Gardner Webb Library. Plus you have this link in your guide for tonight. So we're going to watch how to make a hanging indent. And here it is.
This video will show you how to create a hanging indent for a citation in Microsoft Word. Begin by highlighting your citation. In the paragraph section of the Microsoft Word toolbar, click the expander icon to pop up the full paragraph editing box. In the second section, click the drop-down menu under the special heading. Choose Hanging and click OK. Now your citation has a hanging indent.
And please notice on those hanging indents, they're all double spaced between the entries and within the entries. So this is just a reference versus an in-text citation. You notice like here is a reference entry right here. So that shows you the hanging indent. Here's your parenthetical citation that we talked about. And then that's an example of a narrative citation where it would say like Alexander parentheses 2018. So Alexander parentheses 2018 said the sky is blue. Or you could just say, according to research, the sky is blue, and then all in parentheses, Alexander 2018, which says where you got that information. Here's another example of how your reference section at the end of your paper, right before your appendices section will look. So that is just another example of that. I've already mentioned this once, but numbers 0 to 9 are written in word form. And then anything above 9 can be a number. But if you start or end a sentence with a number, it has to be in word form. So you can't say 50% of our students. That needs to be FIFTYPERCENT. Here's a big change that it took us a while to get on, but I think we finally got it. And in APA 7th edition, there's only one space following punctuation. So for years, we put period, space, space. Nope, now it's just period, one space. And even though APA does allow for things other than Times New Roman, they give other options. Garden Web Educational Department does request that you use everything that you submit to us in Times New Roman 12 point. And then here again is an example of where we started with 20%. So we wrote the word out. Here's another example of the acronym. Revis noted that PLC should occur 3 to 5 times a week with administrators in attendance. So notice it says Revis, and then in parentheses, this is an in-text citation, 2020. So this says she did research in 2020 that says that's the frequency that should have occurred with PLCs. Now, notice it also does not name the name of the article. That is not where it goes. That goes in your reference section at the very bottom of your paper. So there is that. And the other thing that you will find, and please tell me if this doesn't pop up because sometimes the screens don't switch. But right now you should be seeing an APA checklist. Please someone unmute and tell me if you don't see that. But here's a checklist for you that is also in your Blackboard shell. Please go down and read every one of these. Please, I beg you, print this. Check your own paper using this checklist before you turn it in the first time. And when you begin your peer reviews, please use this to help your peers edit their work as well. The red and blue squiggly lines that are on your paper just naturally from Word, please use that. That is there to help you. That is there for a reason. Please use spell check. There are lots of things on here that can help you. Please, 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 I implore you, please print this checklist and use it. It will be very helpful to you and will make Dr. Revis and Dr. Stedman so happy. The end.
Thank you both, Dr. Revis and Dr. Hamilton. That's a lot. But the bottom line is, as it relates to APA, you have to learn the basics. If you don't spend some time learning the basics that Dr. Hamilton has just gone over, you're going to struggle throughout this entire program. And I mean, we're not going to accept the work if it's not done correctly. So that's why we said these first 3 to 4 weeks is so vitally important that you map out the time in your schedule to say, okay, I've got to practice this. I've got to work on it. So everything that Dr. Hamilton has gone over, you'll use every bit of that. In fact, starting this week, you'll have to use a good portion of that. So all I can say is, learn it. You should have an APA manual, but if you're not, you can find the APA 7th edition that you need with the Dover Library and looking at it online. But you really need a copy of the book to be able to go quickly reference to it. It's just a good tool to have over the next few weeks. Now I'm going to share my screen again, and you're going to don't say I quit. You can't do that. But you're going to wonder, why in the world is Dr. Stedman starting on task 2 of the AAPSL or explaining task 2 of the AAPSL or introducing task 2 of the AAPSL, and we haven't even gotten task 1 done. And I'm going to tell you why. This week, the only thing you have to do is task 1 of the AAPSL, and it is due this coming Sunday for instructor review, and Dr. Revis is going to talk about the peer review process. However, after this week, there are 5 tasks for the AAPSL. After this week, not this week, but next week, you will always have a task that will be due for a final grade, and you will always have a task that will be due for review at the same time. You will be cleaning up the edits and the work that you need to put it in for a last time for Dr. Revis and me to say, okay, this is it. This is your grade. No chance you can't go back and fix anything. This is it. And then at the same time, you will be turning in that next task that is due. So I'm going to go back to the helpful hints document, and the reason I'm going to introduce you to this, you should always, as you're working on a task, you should always have in the back of your mind, how does this relate to the next task that I've got to do? Now, and again, that's just simply working smart. So let's look at task 2. Now, task 2 is not due this week. However, Dr. Hamilton, Dr. Revis, I guarantee you, we will have students that will be ready to start working on task 2 before this week's over with. There will be some of you ready for this. So let's look at task 2 and see how it relates to what you're going to do. Task 2 that we will go over in great detail next week will be due not this week, but next week, only task 1. But I want you to look at it. Your heading is going to be data collection strategies. Okay, you've got to begin thinking about, this is when you begin thinking about, okay, we've got problems in our school, and every school does, and you've got to find and identify the most pressing needs. So you're going to start looking for that. So this is going to explain, and I'm going to go in detail with this next week. These are your data collection strategies. You know, what are you going to do to begin looking for that? There's an example there. Then secondly, the next thing you're going to do is the criteria and process for identifying the most pressing need. You got to map it out. What strategies are we going to put in place to figure it out? You and your team will do this. However, when you meet with your team on this, you as the leader should already have thought it out, and you should go in with suggestions and not wait for them. You are the leader, so you be prepared to open the door and to begin the conversation and have some things in place already going into your meeting. Then your third heading is going to be collaborative data analysis. This is all of you as teachers, you've done data dives. So this is what you're going to do. You're going to look at everything that you possibly can get your hands on to determine what that most pressing need is. Now, once you've done that, you will come to a conclusion based on the data that you're looking at. You and your team will say, based on everything that we've done, this is the most pressing need and why. Okay, and then there's going to be 2 parts to task 2. You're going to write about it up there, and then now you're going to graphically represent with charts and graphs and things. You're going to put you're going to tell a story with pictures and graphs and things. That's as far as I'm going to go, but you needed to know what the next step's going to be. And this is where the rubber hits the road. So just to begin, we don't even need to ask questions about this tonight. This is for you to begin thinking about it. You need to go back and you need to look at that and begin acclimating your mind to what it is that you've got to do. Dr. Revis, Dr. Hamilton, can you, I know we don't want to say much more there, but is there anything that I missed that we need to say, or are we good until we get to task 2 next week?
The only thing I would add is that you are just like exactly what Dr. Stedman said. You are identifying your most pressing need, period. You're not solving it.
Right. That's all you're doing. And remember, you're not identifying your most pressing need this week. You don't even need to talk about it other than to just when you do meet with them, if you haven't met yet, you can say a little bit of what I said. This is what we'll be doing next week. But this week, we're not identifying a most pressing need. Okay? Dr. Revis, I think you're going to start with the peer review process. And Junique, the question that you had, you should get your question answered while she's talking. And if you don't, just let us know, okay?
All right. In your peer review teams and peer review processes found a couple places. I'm going to go under this heading, syllabus policies and other course information, because we have a whole section, peer review resources, combined together. Now, I just first want to go very quickly and tell you why we're doing peer reviews. You may say, well, everything else I got to do, why do I have to do peer reviews? Well, let me share with you why. And there are a couple reasons. I'm sorry, I should have had this pulled up, but I wanted you to see where it was. Oh, goodness, how do I get that off of there? I'm trying to, okay. All right, so why are we doing peer reviews? First of all of you are very comfortable in giving feedback to students. Some of you are already comfortable in giving quality feedback to adults. If you're an instructional coach, you're already acting assistant principal or a literacy coach. I've seen all kinds of titles, MTSS coordinator, maybe. You have probably already given feedback to adults on their teaching and on their work. Well, but if you've just been in the classroom, you've not had that. So we want you to become very, very comfortable, because as an administrator, that's one of the most important jobs that you have, is giving quality feedback. And it helps provide feedback to your peers so they can improve their work. But it also gives you an opportunity to see the work of others and helps you get some ideas of how maybe you could improve your work. Now, there are 5 things that we want to remember, and this is from Todd Whitaker's, and this actually came from Dr. Hamilton. 5 things that help praise work. So we always want to be authentic. We want to be truthful. We want to give examples of the author's work and be specific. We, of course, want it to be timely, and we give you a timeline of when that feedback needs to go to your peers. We want it clean and not attached to something else. And we want it to be confidential or private. So I'm going to show you, well, let me say this. Feedback should be provided to your peers no later than, and this should say Wednesday, not Tuesday, but Wednesday at 6 p.m. before class. Am I right on that, Dr. Sedman?
No,
Wednesday.
it is Tuesday.
Okay, Tuesday at 5 p.m. So when you are turning in task 1 on Sunday evening at 6 p.m., you immediately need to see if your partner has completed their task 1, and you need to immediately go in and start downloading it and reviewing that task 1. Now, let me give you some examples of quality feedback, and I'm gonna start with what I call a non-example.
Revis, let me just, about the time again. It's Tuesday. It's Tuesday by 6 o'clock p.m. What the slide? That's just an old slide, and that's when we were doing class on Tuesday nights. So disregard that, and it's in your calendar. It'll show you in
Okay.
the calendar that it's at 6 o'clock on Tuesday, the peer reviews. Okay.
So the first thing I want to show you is the template. You will pull this template down, make a copy of it, and everybody uses this same template to give peer feedback. And you'll notice your name goes here. your peer review, you're the peer reviewer. You put your name here and you put the name of the author's work here. This, when we grade this, we're looking at it from what kind of quality feedback you are giving your peers. There are 6 categories. Okay. We expect you to be very thorough and specific in your feedback. So I'm first going to show you the non-example. I don't know if you can see this big enough or if I need to, do I need to download that and blow it up a little bit? Probably. This is what you don't do. And if I see this, I send it back. The task is aligned to the course content. Thank you for a great paper. The only downfall I saw was on the first page where the task directions were still high. This is unacceptable feedback.
Dr. Revis,
Okay.
actually, we don't send it back. They get a 0 on it.
Well, that's true. You'll get a 0. You don't get to redo. You don't get redos on your peer reviews. There is nothing here that is formative. There is nothing here that is specific. And when you get down here to the APA formatting, do not say, looks good to me. No. One of the ways that you will learn APA is for you to help others learn it too. And you know you do have to learn it. So that's the non-example. The example that I want to show you is much, much more thorough. These are easy 50s for you to score. Remember, as Dr. Sedman say, you don't redo it. It is what it is. So you need to make sure it's thorough. Look at this information, how thorough it is. It does say a little bit about what needs to be fixed and a suggestion. Now look at the rubric strength. I want you to look at how this person has provided feedback. That's going to be your first heading, school setting. And this person takes each heading, that's not really a heading, but and breaks it down and gives feedback on each heading. Again, noting the areas of strength. This particular piece of the rubric, you're talking about areas of strength. This particular piece of the rubric, you're talking about areas of weakness where they can beef it up. And it needs to be very clear. Don't say things like, I think you maybe should do da 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 da. No, tell it like it is. Right? You would never get feedback like that from your principal. I could not find any discussion. That's a fact. Tell the facts. Don't be ugly about it, okay? Be professional about it, but don't be waffly about it either. Just be very direct about it. And we're all doing this. We're all big people, so we're doing this. And then you have a section on mechanics and grammar. Please do not say, it looks good except a few errors. Tell them where the errors are. First citation and third citation. That's specific. Talk about the organization. You can make a section, your PLC research section, flow better. It reads like an annotated bibliography. That's factual and to the point, but specific. Again, they go over the APA citation issue that they had. And if I got this feedback, I would know exactly where to go and exactly what to address. And this person's even given me some ideas about what I need to do to address that differently. So with that
Dr.
said,
Revis,
yes.
Can I ask a question? So at the top where it's like you can choose 1, 2, 3, or 4, do we do that or was that you?
You don't worry about any of that. You
Okay.
don't have to do a rating scale. We are looking at the content of your feedback. Okay. Now, this is my course shell. So if you're in Dr. Stedman's class, don't get wigged out when you don't see your name here. Okay. Because you won't. These are my students. I have put you in teams. There's 4 teams. There are 19 students, so we have 3 teams of 5 and 1 team of 4. Now, if we get somebody that drops out after tonight or, after tomorrow, if it gets down to where there's only a couple people, I may have to ask you to reorganize a little bit. But what you do is you get together with these people and you can find their information in discussion board. You can text them or talk about. Somebody here needs to initiate that conversation because the first thing you need to do is decide who is going to review and give feedback to which person. So, for example, you could say that Dana is going to review Megan's going to review Nicole's, Nicole Jamie, and Jamie Brandon, and then Brandon's going to circle back and get Dana in this first task 1. And then in task 2, you may start back here with Brandon and go the other way. We do not want you reviewing the same person every time. I think that's just because it gives you an opportunity to see many people's work and it gives you an opportunity to give feedback to different people. However, if Dana is supposed to review Megan and Megan doesn't turn her work in on time, then Dana is free to go on and review anybody else's work. Now, what that's going to mean to Megan, if she didn't submit her work at 6 o'clock, not only is she going to get penalized because she didn't submit her work on time, task 1, she's not going to get peer reviewed. And that's just the way it is. We're not going to hold everybody else up just because you didn't get your ducks in a row and get your work on time. But get together and decide how you're going to start this rotation of peer reviews. Now, when you do that peer review, there are two places that you have to upload it. The first place is in your discussion board, right here. Okay? Go to discussion board. This sends your feedback to your teammate. But then you've got to send it to Dr. Stedman and me, or me. Of course, your mind class, you're sending it to me. And that can be found all the way underneath all your modules. There's another place where you can find the same information. You can put it there if you want to. Again, this is discussion board. And here's your assignment. You've got to put it right here for me, your instructor, to review it. So you open it up and you upload it. Okay?
And Dr. Revis, it's the same identical thing that you're submitting to your peer. Nothing is different. You're submitting to us the same thing that you're submitting to your peer. You're just putting it in 2 different places.
Okay. Now, for your peers, you're going to a discussion board and you have to create a thread. And I'm assuming most people know how to do that. Here, you're just uploading your document. Okay. An easy way to get 50 points, but it's all or nothing. There's no redos on peer reviews. Any questions on the peer review process? Why
Janine
we
has
do
a question, Dr. Revis.
Okay, go ahead.
So I'm like, if I could have a transparent moment, I'm very, very bad at grammar. I don't even really think I speak English, even though that's my native language. What if like I am like APA format, right? I'm reviewing somebody that is definitely better than me in that, and I sincerely cannot spot a mistake. Like I'm not, I don't really like too many what if scenarios because I was a classroom teacher not too long ago, but like seriously, and because in regards to most of the sections, there's always some type of feedback that you can give, but what if the person just did the APA format to perfection?
Then you just say that you've done your
Okay.
APA to perfection.
But
That
you,
probably will not happen, Jay Unique, here in the
yeah,
first task
It's
or
just
two.
unique. It's just unique.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. That probably won't happen with the submission of the first couple tasks, but as you go along in the program, that's going to be very frequent. But remember the things to look for. Number one, are their in-text citations correct? Number two, do they do they format their reference section correctly? Do they handle their numbers correctly? And, just little things like that. So you've got to know how to do in-text citations correctly, and you got to know how to do your reference section correctly. Those are big things.
Janique, and this is not just you, but all of you. This is an opportunity because remember, there's a dual purpose. You want to help your peer, but you want this to be a learning process for you. You're learning APA while you're trying to tell somebody else about APA. It's going to make you dig. So if in Janique, if you're looking at it and you don't see anything, then we don't just say I don't see any APA area. Just say in reviewing your for APA, your in-text citations were correct. This. So state it out because what it's going to do is going to make you're going to start thinking more and more about that whole process, and you will be amazed at how much you learn from that by restating the things that you're required to look for. Okay.
And if you have not bought an APA manual, I'm gonna go back to Dover Library very quickly and look here on the right, citation style guide. Now be sure you're in APA because this has several. In the School of Education, we use APA. But look right here. It tells you very quickly, this is a great place to kind of check on things. You will learn this the more you use it, you'll learn it. And it tells you how to do line spacing. Of course, it's all double space. How to do a table setup, tables and figures. Remember, we're just doing figures. It'll tell you here how to cite journal articles. Okay, and give you good examples. There's how you do the reference for a journal article, and there's how you would do a parenthetical, and there's how you would do a narrative. APA is about patterns, establishing patterns. And I'm not an APA expert. Dr. Hamilton is much more of an expert than I. But if you stay with journals or books, there's a pattern to all this. And so you just have to learn that pattern. And you'll be fine. But if you're doing magazine articles and so on and so forth, but you're going to stay mostly with journal articles. And here's another thing about APA in-text citations. Okay? Look at the resources that you have, but make sure that you're in APA style. All right? Any other questions about peer reviews?
Revis, I want to remind them too. Now, we realize that for many of you, this is your first time with this. It's going to be difficult the first time, challenging. Let me put it that way. It's going to be challenging the first time. But again, I'm going to use that word again. I promise you, if you give it the thought process that you need, you get through it the first time. By the time you get to task 2, you're going to already have learned so much that you don't even realize, but it'll start. And by the time you get to task 3, which is that 3rd week, or going into, it builds itself, and your confidence level, it builds each week until finally, this is what's going to happen. You'll have that aha moment. You've always heard, you'll have that aha moment, and you'll say, it's coming together. It will come together. It's not going to happen for the most part. Right now, you're going to have to put some work into it, but each time you do it, it gets better.
And you'll also get in a routine for when things are due. So again, your first assignment, task 1, is due Sunday evening at 6. As soon as you turn that in, go ahead and start picking your person for your peer review and start working on your peer review. Get it submitted, and then you can start looking at task 2. Now, we will try to have feedback for your task 1 work. Dr. Stedman, you're always quicker than I am. I will try to have your task 1 feedback by Monday. Okay? So if you can do your peer review on Sunday night, then when you get my feedback on Monday, you can start working on it, because you need to have it turned back into me to look at again. Are we going to try to do maybe a Thursday deadline on that, Dr. Stedman, or are we just going to let them wait till Sunday?
On the what?
On when they are doing revisions for task 1.
They need to get it in as soon. You can't wait till the last minute, because there's no chances. If it's due for a final grade on Sunday and you wait until Sunday to turn it in, you don't get a chance anymore. We may, if it's something fixable, we may even give you that 3rd chance sometime. But if you don't, then that's it. So I advise you, don't wait until the last minute, because you've got to already work on that next test that's due. So you need to go ahead and get whatever task 1. When we give you feedback, you need to go ahead and get on it and get it completed and fixed as soon as possible, so you can move on to task 2 and not get bogged down and get behind. Okay?
Now, if you have to do revisions on task 1, you upload those revisions back in that same place for Dr. Stedman and myself. But now when we get to the final submission, of course, you just upload it once.
And we'll tell you when it's ready for a final submission. You don't go there until we tell you, it's ready for a final submission. Okay. Which means that your peer review grade could be possibly less than your final grade if you do what we tell you to do and make correct. Your final grade should be, if you've done it all, it should be almost error-free, if not error-free.
Yeah. Now, if let's talk about this just a moment. If I give you specific feedback, and I try to give pretty specific feedback, and I tell you that you need to do this, folks, that's non-negotiable. You need to do it. If you turn it back into me and it's not done or not addressed, I move on. I figure you don't want to address it. If your peer gives you feedback and you question whether that feedback is accurate, you use your own judgment on that. But if your instructors tell you to fix something or to address something, that's non-negotiable. You need to do that. And be sure as you're going through your feedback that you address everything, not just one thing. Make sure you go through everything.
Okay. Dr. Hamilton, we're going to give it to you in just a second. I know we're going over, but we said that for the first few weeks, we realized that it would go over some. It will level off eventually. So remember what is due this coming Sunday by 6 o'clock is task 1 of the AAPSL. Task 1 is due for instructor review, and go back and look at the schedule when your peer review is due as well. But you must submit it to us no later than 6 o'clock on Sunday. And if you've got it done, don't wait until Sunday. The sooner you get it to us, the sooner we can go ahead and give you feedback and let you move on with it. So don't wait. Dr. Hamilton.
Dr. Hamilton, before you start about your clinical work, do you have any suggestions or any comments you want to make to kind of help people not get so wired up because it's a lot. So if you want to make any comments about the process or what's due or any of that, please feel free to say something.
Thank you. And it is a lot, right? So the only thing you need to worry about right now is your school profile. And then that task 1 of the AAPSL. And then once that's finished, look at task 2 that Dr. Stedman did a quick overview of and start thinking there. Janique, did you have a question?
Yeah, I'm a little confused. Because I hear that that is due on Sunday, but we got to turn it in sooner if we want feedback.
You can turn it in sooner.
That's not what I said, Janique. I
But
said if you finish your work, you don't have to wait until Sunday to turn it in. You're going to
okay.
get
But
feedback
if
when you
you
turn
turn
it
it
in
on,
on Sunday.
okay, as long as you turn it in on time at the
So, yeah,
deadline.
it's Sunday by 6 o'clock. That is when it's due. But I'm
Okay.
just telling people, if you are through with your work before Sunday at 6 o'clock, you don't have to wait until then. You can go ahead and submit it whenever you complete your work before Sunday.
And Janique, just to sort of add on there, just probably just like, as a teacher in a classroom, right? So if somebody turned in their work at 6 o'clock on Thursday night, they just turned it in Thursday night. And we're looking at our computer, oh, look, there's some work. Okay, I can grade that. But then when you get 20 AAPSL task 1s at 5 o'clock on Sunday, that slows up that feedback process as well. I think that's why the point is when you're ready, turn it in when you're ready. It just sort of helps everybody along, gets you your feedback quicker, and helps everybody along. It does. All right. Anything else? Do you want me to do this, or would you like for me to try to present this in some other way? I sent you a little text, but I don't know what you.
Dr. Hamilton, I do have one more question.
Tired.
The
Hi, Dana.
PLC research, do you have like a recommendation on how long you want that to be? Because I know
The
that
only
can get very
requirement is
expensive.
that there are 3 separate researchers or
Okay.
sources of research cited in there. Correct, Dr. Stedman, Dr. Revis?
Yes. I would say that I would, at minimum, 3 well-developed paragraphs. And again, it's not what you do in your school or what you've had experience with, it's what the research says. Okay.
Okay.
But I would
Thank
say
you.
at least 3 well-developed paragraphs.
And go ahead, Dr. Stedman, and tell them what we just agreed on.
Okay, you've got enough, and we've made an executive decision. We're not going to go into the internship at all. I think you'll be an overload, and you don't need anything else. Dr. Hamilton, we will start you next week with the internship, so it's not at the end. Okay.
That's okay.
So
And
go
if they
ahead.
get all their other stuff finished and sort of like, okay, it's in the internship shell, all those links are in there, like everything is written out clearly. You are welcome to go in there and look at that from this week. It's there.
And the good thing about it, see, guys, the thing is, we may mention some things about APA, but we won't have to spend the amount of time next week on APA. We may mention about the peer review process, but we will not go back and do everything that Dr. Revis did. There has to be a first time, for all of this for you to know what it is that you've got to do. And then we will do reminders, and we may talk about a part of something, but we won't go back and do the whole thing again. Okay. Okay, Dana, do you have a question?
I already asked it. That was
Okay,
my
I'm sorry.
question.
Yeah,
I'm
Cam was up there still. Okay.
sorry.
That's okay.
Dana, if you have not reached back out to your CC1, she said that she has emailed you and also Jamie. Now that was yesterday. So if you reached out to her yesterday or today, don't worry about it. But it's Dr. Bowen Nutting.
Yes,
She
ma'am.
has-
I emailed last night.
Okay, good.
And
Good.
Dr. Revis, we only had one student here tonight that said they had not heard from their CC1.
Okay,
And
great.
do you have the list? It's
I haven't
Trelise.
heard from them either.
Oh, Janique hasn't either. Okay.
Okay,
Janique and Trelise.
and Dr.
Amy
Revis,
Foreman.
Oh, okay.
and,
Amy
and,
Foreman
and Brandon has not. Brandon Bowden has not.
and Janique, you.
Are there any of my students who has not heard?
Okay.
Okay.
Dr. Hamilton, do you have the list of assigned
I do not.
CC1? Okay.
Mm-mm.
Can
I
I
do
send
not.
that to you? I can send it
That'd
to
be
you.
great. If you'll send it
Okay.
to me, then I will try to make a connection.
All right, that would be perfect. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. So I have 4 people: Trelise, Amy, Brandon, Janique. Going once, going twice. Sold. There we go.
All right now, guys, I don't see a lot of happy smiles. So I know you're overwhelmed, but I promise you it's going to be okay.
Well,
Just hang in there with it and you will get it down. You'll get your routine going and, just do your best work. But now, like I told you the first night, you're going to have to put some time into this. So, just try to do your best work and you're going to be fine. And we will try to give you as specific and thorough feedback. We always try to do that at the beginning of the semester. And we start backing off on some of it toward the middle. And because you become more self-sufficient and you don't need as much support. But we will get you there. But you've got to come at it with your best effort and you're going to be fine.
And can I
All
just brag and just say, like, everybody's got their screen on, like everybody has been intently listening. And this hour and a half is a long time for this, right? We
is.
started with 37 people because I took roll. We still have 37 people. Nobody left us.
And everybody in my class is here. I
I know. I
applaud you.
texted you. I mean, stamina. This group has some
Yes.
stamina. You all can do this.
You can.
I have one person that's not here, and that person called me today, so I've spoken with that person.
Oh, good.
Awesome. You will do better in class if you can attend. Now we know there's always going to be a conflict here and there, but you need to try to be here as much as you can. All right,
I
guys.
have one question. Don't kill me, y'all. I know you're ready to go. The task and the description and the instructions that's already on the template, we leave that, correct? Okay. All right.
Everything in black stays.
Okay. All right. Just making sure.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good. And
Guys, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. Okay.
okay.
I have a question.
Okay. If you feel good about where you are and you want to leave, go ahead. Who has the question?
I do. Corey.
Okay. Is that Corey? Hey,
That's
Corey,
Corey,
how
yeah.
are you?
All right, and yourself?
So
Good.
the profile, that's the same assignment as task one, right?
That's correct.
That
I
goes
was
with
thinking,
task one, yeah.
two different assignments, so we on
Yeah,
the same page now.
that's part of task one. Yes.
Okay.
All right, Corey, you gonna be all right?
I'm gonna make it.
You are. I was looking at your facial expressions. You're very intense, so hang in there. Anybody else?
I have a question. And Dana, are you still here?
I am, yes, ma'am.
Okay, so this pertains to Dana and myself. We both work for the same school district at our respective schools. We're both instructional coaches. So we have been running PLCs for quite some time. So we have we just need to know, like, how do you want us to form our PLCs if we already have all of our teachers in PLCs already?
Like
Amy,
to make it new because we're worried because we meet with these teachers weekly already, so it's going to be hard to create a new PLC. We could do a new topic, or pick a new direction, but these are scheduled weekly at our schools already.
let me
You
ask
don't work at
both
the
of you
same
something.
school,
No, you don't work at the same schools, right?
No,
No.
sir.
Okay,
but in
let
the
me
same
ask you
school
to think
district.
about this. Both of you are part of the leadership team there, I'm assuming. You work with the
Yes.
principal, you work with other lead teachers, other people that do similar things to what you do.
Yes.
You're finishing up with probably around this time. I know the second benchmarks are being done. And the reason being, I've got an academy and they're completing benchmarks this week, their second benchmark. So
Ours is
this is
next
a
week.
time as the leadership team looks at things, this is a time that y'all are having the discussion about, this subgroup we're having, this really looks, it's an opportunity to talk with them about it and just, and you take the lead on it and maybe even just, you just pull a small group in there and you work on something that you feel like if we got these 10 students over the hump because it's a subgroup, it could make a major difference in our end of grader end of course testing.
Or another way you can look at it, if you're doing benchmarks and you've done some data dives with it, you can look at a particular strand of the curriculum
And
in
right.
which students have not done well and go deeper with that. So can you use your same PLCs that you're doing? I would say my challenge would be to tell you no, but you can use some of the same people, but maybe look at things in a different way than you have looked at them before.
Like maybe bring in like our ESL or EC into
Perfect.
like a
Absolutely.
math
Yes,
PLC.
yes, Dana. Just be more creative with your group and look at something that under your leadership that it could make a major difference at this stage of the year.
I wanted to ask because I know this is not what I'm supposed to be thinking about right now, but could it possibly be based on attendance? Because that
No.
is no. Okay.
No. Has to be
Yes,
student
you can't
performance
do
or growth.
attendance or discipline. It must be able to be measured with a test.
Okay.
Something. Academic performance is what we're looking at.
Okay.
However, we know all those other factors are going to play in there, and that will come with some of the work that you're going to be doing after you get out of 601. You will be able to look at attendance and behavior at some point
Okay.
with some things.
I was just thinking that would have been a totally new direction, so that I just wanted to ask.
Right,
And now I
right.
remember you saying that last week. Sorry.
Right. That's okay. But think about it, Amy and Dana, and then reach out to us if you need to, okay?
Okay.
Thank you.
You're
Yes,
welcome.
thank you.
I am so glad to see you guys going into administration. Instructional coaches make super instructional principals.
We hope
I
so.
agree. I agree.
We hope so. It's a tough job. It's been a tough week for both of us, I think. So
Well,
We're
it is a
thinking.
tough job because you have to do a lot of selling.
Yes,
A lot of selling.
yes, yes, ma'am. Well, thank you guys so much. And
Thank you. Anybody else? Guys, I'm
I
getting
have a
off the hook.
question.
Okay,
I just,
go
So
ahead.
if I'm a kindergarten teacher, so would you recommend looking at just kindergarten or K2? Because we all do the same assessments. We do Dibbles or Amplify. So would you look at K2 as a whole or break it down to one grade level?
Can I
That's
take that
absolutely-
one?
Okay.
Sure.
I think I would go ahead and look at K2 and then determine like like from phonemic segmentation to oral reading fluency to letter naming fluency, whatever, and just sort of see what the strengths and weaknesses are in each area and see if that is on a continuum. Because if it's on a continuum from K2, if it's basically, the same problems, K2, fluency or whatever, right? Then you could know that that's something you would eventually want to look at, maybe working on that fluency piece in kindergarten, because that's going to have that sustainability and build that for the next couple of years.
Okay. All right.
Just
Thank
look at
you.
it and see. Yeah. It's just interesting. Well, I get a little data nerdish, so it's just very interesting to look at all that.
Yes, but because you were a data nerd, your schools always performed really well.
Thank you.
Right.
I have a question about accessing the peer reviews once it's been submitted. How do I get my person's work so that I can review it?
Discussion board.
It'll go under
Okay,
discussions
so it
and it'll
goes
be
in the
posted there.
discussion
Yeah.
board, it goes in the submission, and then, okay.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Got it.
My
Okay,
internet's
have to
been
post it, then
weird
you.
tonight,
Right.
so it may have been mentioned and I just didn't hear it. So
I
That's
don't
okay.
think I mentioned it, Jacob, but that's a good question.
thank you.
Guys, you gonna stay with us all night?
Hey, you're
I'm
gonna
ready
be,
to go.
but again,
Goodbye.
bye. You're gonna do
Yeah,
well
guys,
this
thank
week.
you.
Okay,
Good
you're gonna do
night.
well this week. I promise you.
Felicia
Good
Simmons,
night.
don't
Bye.
leave. Don't
Dr.
leave,
Stedman,
Felicia.
you
Let's
must be at the
talk.
beach. Is he gone? You must be at the beach, Dr. Stedman.
Oh, I've actually moved to a different room. My wife is at the beach right now with her sister. So
Okay.
I just stayed in here because there was no interruptions.
No one home.
Right.
Look
No
at
one
Felicia's
home.
background, though, guys. She's at the beach all the time.
That's
Ah.
hilarious. I'm liking that one.
All right, Felicia, tell us what's going on with your supervision.